Today we're going to talk about what to do when Thanks for watching, guys. If you liked the video, hit the like button, me up. God damn it. And that is the point. The point is you're only gonna ever... What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Today we're gonna talk about what to do when fat loss plateaus. We're not gonna talk so much in depth scientifically about why fat loss plateaus. If you wanna know why fat loss plateaus, I'm gonna link in the description a podcast that I did with Alan Aragon, and it goes over why fat loss plateaus, and we go over this framework a little bit in that podcast as well if you're looking for some more in-depth stuff. That being said, I think talking about it a little bit is important for this context. Fat loss is gonna plateau for one of two reasons. One, you either actually have metabolically adapted to the deficit. It's called metabolic adaptation. And what that means is that your body, in response to going into a calorie deficit, has down-regulated its metabolism in an attempt to not die. It's a totally normal, evolutionary, biological response to being in a deficit. The second option is that you're just not being consistent enough. Like your fat loss might plateau because you're not actually doing what you need to be doing. So you've either been consistent and there's been some metabolic adaptation, maybe, and you've reached a new equilibrium, or you're just not being consistent and fat loss plateaued because you're not actually doing what you need to be doing. And that's important because when we go over these options, it's important to identify which camp you're in so you know which is probably the better option or options for you. Now, this is an expansion of an Instagram post that I've done. So if you don't follow me on Instagram, we're gonna put that down here somewhere. This isn't gonna be a video of me telling you exactly what to do. I'm going to be laying out a framework that simplifies your options. And the truth is, when fat loss plateaus, you only ever have these exact three options. This is not my opinion. The fact is, there's no superfood, there's no supplement, there's no style of training, there's no heart rate zone that is going to just magically hack your way through a fat loss plateau. You only ever have these three options, and we're gonna go over some pros and cons of each. I'll add a little context, and hopefully by the end of the video, you understand a little bit better about which option is the best for you. Again, I'm not listing these in an order of operations of like, you should go at them in this order. The truth is, you'll know which one is right for you by the end of the video. So let's say fat loss has plateaued. Your first option is eat less, right? Or move more. What we're talking about here is pushing the deficit further. Now, option one is really only okay if you've actually been consistent and you feel good, right? If you've been consistent enough to maybe think that you or suspect that you've adapted metabolically a little bit, maybe you are at a new equilibrium, and you feel good enough where you're in a place where sacrificing some of your calories to push the deficit further makes sense. Man, if you're tired and hungry and you don't feel good, you're irritable, your sleep sucks, your workout sucks, you're on such low calories that your lifestyle kind of sucks. Option one sounds terrible. So even if you've been consistent and you maybe have adapted to the deficit, if you don't feel good, don't do option one. Now, if you haven't been consistent, let's say your coach gives you 16 to 1800 calories and you haven't been consistent with hitting that, and your weight has plateaued, decreasing your calories is a terrible fucking plan. Like, obviously, if you're not sticking to 16 to 18, we're not lowering your calories. So option one is then off the table. Option two, eat more, right? So you eat less and we have eat more. How does eat more help me break through a plateau? Well, in an indirect fashion. In that first context where maybe you've been consistent and maybe you've metabolically adapted to the deficit a little bit, eating more can give you a chance to take a break psychologically, like bring your calories up to maintenance, take a diet break, take a maintenance phase, undo some of that psychological and physiological diet fatigue. You will feel better physically, you will feel better mentally, and you can come back to the deficit with a bit more vengeance and attack it in a way that you can push through that plateau. Now, in the other context where you haven't been consistent, raising your calories can actually be super helpful. If I have a client who is not adhering to the amount of calories or the calorie range that we've given them week after week after week, and they're really struggling to be consistent, decreasing their calories, like we talked about, terrible idea. But increasing the calories, bringing them up to maintenance, giving them more food, is going to help them actually be consistent. If you have somebody who's struggling to hit a certain amount of calories, increasing them up to maintenance, giving them a psychological break, a physiological break, getting out of that fat loss mindset that can independently be mentally fatiguing, can be super helpful. And again, that person can come back to fat loss at a later date and really crush it and have a much better chance of being successful than if they're hammering it and hammering it and hammering it, but not being consistent and not getting the result that they want. It's just frustrating. So increasing your calories can be a really good idea to just give yourself a break if you're not being consistent. Now, option three, super underrated. We have eat more, eat less, and eat the same, right? Leave everything the way it is. And it's a very underrated, underutilized tactic to break through a plateau, because most people, they want to jump, they want to do something, they want to slash your calories, they want to do some crazy HIIT style training, they want to take a diet break, maintenance phase, it's like refeed. Man, sometimes you just need to fucking chill and be more patient. And a lot of times it's because your expectation of how fast things are supposed to move, how consistently you're supposed to see your weight go down, even if you're doing everything right, is built from just a whole bunch of untrue stuff, like, you know, magazine covers and stuff you hear about Karen in accounting going keto and crazy transformation pictures on Instagram. Like, it's not the case. And even if you're being consistent, even if you're hitting your calories, even if you're consistently in a deficit, your weight won't go down every week. So if you have 1 week, 2 weeks where you're not seeing weight loss and you've been hitting your calories, that doesn't mean you need to do one of these options. You can and probably should, as your first line of defense, just chill and be more patient. And that also goes for the person who's not being consistent. Maybe what you need to do is just tighten up the reins. Maybe you're still mentally in a place where you want to attack fat loss and you don't really feel like you want to take a break. Obviously, going lower isn't a good idea. Just hold it steady, just tighten up the reins a little bit, just aim for that calorie range, and maybe everything will be fine and you'll actually push through that plateau. So again, if your fat loss has plateaued and the idea of going lower sounds terrible to you, then scratch this option and maybe take a break or maybe hold it steady. And if the idea of going lower sounds totally fine because you feel good and you've actually been consistent, then go ahead and do option 1. The point is, no option is better than the other. And based on where you are in your journey and based on how consistent you've been and based on how you felt when I went through those options, you'll know which one to do. So I know this isn't the most mind-boggling breakdown you've ever seen, but that's the point. The truth is, you're only going to ever have these same 3 options. That's it. No hacks, no supplements, no training techniques, no fasting techniques. It's just these 3 options. So at any point in your journey, you're going to need to be honest about which one of these 3 options is the best one for you. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like the video, hit the like button, subscribe if you don't already. I'll see you guys in the next one.